Gunpowder armies get overrun even with perfect formation, because these four mistakes. Most players think formations alone are enough to win battles, but with gunpowder builds, you have to do more to keep your army alive against overwhelming odds. Gunpowder armies do not fail because they lack damage, they fail because they don't have enough time to use it. Here are four main reasons why gunpowder armies get overwhelmed and how to prevent it. The first reason is bad positioning. When you position your army, there are two things you need to watch out for. First is to not allow enemy army to reach your lines in full force at the same time, and second is to protect your flanks and rear. So when you're deploying your army, you should ask yourself two questions: how defendable the position is, and how far it is from the enemy. Now, which one you will prioritize, it all depends on your army composition, enemy army, and the terrain. But in general, you should prioritize defense if you are outnumbered, and range if there are specific threats that you have to deal with early before main engagement even starts. Strong defensive position is the one that doesn't allow enemy to come from your flanks and encircle your army, so you should always deploy your formations in such a way that enemy units can only ever come to you from your front. You can use impossible terrain as natural barriers to protect your flanks. It's also nice if you have a hill, but it's not essential. In a way, you can also use rivers as natural barriers, because they will slow down enemy armies. But on bridge maps, you should position on the side and not directly in front of the bridge, and this way you will instantly make ground distance longer, and that will provide you more time to shoot enemy, and also enemy units will get tired faster. Now, most gunpowder armies work best when they are static, but on certain maps you will have to move outside of deployment zone and take better position. This can be tricky, but it's usually doable. You can check my covered retreat video where I show how to do it in battle, but here are some basics. When you make such a massive movement of entire army, you will need to use some distractions or control enemy army until your units get into position. If situation is dire, you shouldn't be afraid to even sacrifice 1 or 2 units. It's always better to lose few units than entire army. You should always pick the terms of the battle and not allow enemy to dictate the fights. Now there is another reason why positioning is so crucial. Gunpowder armies don't always need protection, but they do need time to shoot. Now the more time you have to shoot at enemy forces before they reach your lines, the less enemy units will have to deal with once the main battle starts, and it's less likely you will be overwhelmed. There are 3 ways you can increase damage with gunpowder armies throughout the battle. You can do it by increasing distance with positioning, by increasing number of volleys, by stacking reload speed, and controlling enemy approach. The reload speed is one of the most important stats for gunpowder armies, because across every gunpowder faction, most gun units do more or less similar damage, and the only way to drastically increase damage output is to make your guns shoot faster. As the gunpowder armies do damage in intervals, or the volleys, unlike shock armies that just charge into enemy and break enemy lines quickly. Now, by increasing distance between 2 armies, you will also get more volleys to shoot, so you should always position as far away as possible, even outside of the range of your artillery, and this will naturally split enemy force across the battlefield. If you do this, slower enemy units will struggle to get into combat for a very long time, while fast units will advance in front, and you can pick targets one at a time. Now it's even better if you help enemy units to split across the map. You can delay their approach by harassing and luring units away. It's a great tactic and one that is available to every gunpowder faction. For this, you can use fast cavalry or any flyers. Just avoid being caught. And the best thing is you don't even have to attack them. As long as you're buzzing near enemy units, you will get some of their attention, and you can kite them in opposite directions. Or you can bring them close to your guns and remove certain threats before the main battle even starts. You can also cast roots and slows, and this will further split enemy force across the battlefield. However, what you should never do is to slow down faster units on the other side of the map. If you do this, you will actually help enemy forces to arrive in gun range in one big blob. So if you're going for slows and roots in the back line, always try to hit slower units like infantry. This way you allow fast units to come in first, get killed, then the next group, and so on. This is also part of deep defense tactic. You can check my video in description. However, gunpowder factions that don't have access to reliable slows and roots are usually ones that get overwhelmed, and these factions especially have to pay attention to next chapter. Using wrong composition will certainly make your army crumble under enemy numbers, and the wrong army is one that doesn't have a clear plan and tools to deal with specific problems you might encounter. Now here you have different compositions across factions, but you should always go through the following checklist when you build an army. You will always need anti-infantry and anti-large damage dealers, specific units that are good against characters. You always need some control for fast and flying units. Next, you will need some counter for tough units with high physical and missile resistance, and finally something to intercept charges. Now, luckily, all units with guns are naturally good against single entities, small characters, and large monsters, plus they can contribute against infantry. So in most cases, you should support your guns with artillery or other tools that are good at clearing mass infantry. For example, you can use Hellstone rocket batteries or Outriders with grenade launchers with handgunners. Now, as for control, magic is by far the best tool for most factions. You can use items or specific contact effects that slow down enemies. Against physical resistance, magical attacks are clear counter. However, the best tool against all resistances is an enchanted item. It's called the Other Trickster Shard, and it reduces all resistances by 20% in an area, even ward save. Finally, it's always a good idea to have at least one tough unit, hero or a monster, that can fight in melee, and it's even better if it flies. Its main purpose is to lock in melee specific targets like long-range artillery or to intercept a charge as a last line of defense for your missile units. Now, the most tactical way to prevent being overwhelmed is to pick off targets in the right order. So before every battle, you should check enemy forces and decide what threats need to be dealt first. Sometimes that can even be army abilities like Skaven Menace Belows or Chaos Dwarf Bombardments, but against most factions which do not yet possess nuclear weapons, you should follow this priority list. So first, take out any units that can hit you from greater distance and do significant damage. This can be a specific missile unit or even a wizard. Now on the same priority tier are dangerous flyers and fast enemy units. Flyers first over ground targets, because those can completely shut down your backline. Next priority should be any ground troop with high damage output, and you should go from fastest to slowest. For instance, against demons you should focus on chariots and then exalted infantry. And finally, you should focus on any remaining unit that's worth a lot of balance of power. Those are usually lords and heroes or some high tier units. If you remove majority of enemy balance of power, the battles will end quicker and you will take less damage. So everything we talked about so far is about your army getting overwhelmed, but there is another problem that's just as important: your guns not firing at all because of line of sight. That's a completely different issue and it deserves its own video, because terrain alone can completely break down Gunpowder Armies. And if you're still struggling with Gunpowder, the problem might actually be your formations, so go and watch this video next. See ya.